got to be some balance struck, but removing it from the busiest street in Toronto is just like, come on.
A major speed bump in the province's plans to get rid of bike lanes in Toronto.
Ontario Superior Court rules the removal unconstitutional. Tonight, the reaction from Queen's Park to city cyclists. Good evening is the latest bout in the battle over bike lanes, and this one delivered a big blow to the Premier.
His government wanted to rip out lanes on three busy arteries, Bloor, Yonge and University, but today the court put the brakes on those plans. CTV's Scott Lightfoot joins us live with tonight's top story. Scott.
Nathan, this is a decision that took cycling advocates by surprise. One, they had no idea it was going to be handed down today. Two, they say they're quite surprised by how clear and unambiguous the judge was in his ruling. Of course, this all stems from Bill 212, which the province passed last November, a bill that has been protested extensively. This was a charter challenge, and it was a bit of a legal Hail Mary for cycling advocates. And tonight it appears that has paid off. Ontario Superior Court has found the government's actions in deciding to remove bike lanes on Bloor, Yonge and Huron University would violate people's charter rights under Section 7 of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. In his ruling, Justice Paul Shaw said the applicants have established that the removal of the target bike lanes will put people at increased risk of harm and death, which engages the right to life and security of the person. The evidence is clear that restoring a lane of motor vehicle traffic where it will involve the removal of the protected or separated nature of the target bike lanes will create greater risk to cyclists and to other users of the roads. Now, cycling advocates say they are encouraged by today's decision. Here's what the executive director of CycleTO told us.
The judge's comments were scathing about the province's lack of evidence about the safety of bike lanes, and I think even just as important, the issue of traffic congestion itself. You know, the Premier, the Minister maybe tried to frame this as a bikes versus cars, but our challenge was around the safety of the bike lanes. But the other piece that the judge commented on as well was that ripping out these bike lanes actually won't address the traffic issues the Premier is looking to solve.
Also responding to the decision is the government. Of course, Ontario's Transportation Minister released a statement this afternoon that said, "We were elected by the people of Ontario with a clear mandate to restore lanes of traffic and get drivers moving by moving bike lanes off of major roads to secondary roads. To deliver on that mandate, we will be appealing the court's decision." And as part of this bill, the province sort of bigfooted the city by making what would normally be local traffic flow decisions. Toronto's mayor released a statement today saying bike lanes keep thousands of people safe. Everyone should be safe as they travel to work, school, and around our city. Since 2023, 78 cyclists have been killed or seriously injured in collisions on the road. Mayor Chow maintains that the City of Toronto and its elected council should be the ones making decisions about municipal infrastructure. Of course, this is also getting lots of reaction from those who use bike lanes, Toronto cyclists. Here's what some had to say.
There's got to be a balance between the two. Is it removing the bike lanes for half the year, or I don't have the answer, but there's got to be some balance struck. But removing it from the busiest street in Toronto is just like, come on, let's talk honestly. It's not practical.
Toronto is such a bikeable city. Vehicles are kind of impractical getting around, so if anything, people should feel encouraged to use these lanes that are here for their convenience, like myself.
The work to remove these bike lanes was supposed to begin some time ago. It was on hold as this charter challenge was underway. You heard in that statement from the Minister of Transportation that the province plans to appeal this decision. The head of CycleTO says they will continue to fight to keep the bike lanes. Reporting live along University Ave, I'm Scott Lightfoot. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Scott. We're following major breaking news out of Ottawa. As the crisis in the Middle East continues to unfold, Prime Minister Mark Carney's confirmed plans for Canada to recognize a Palestinian state.
It intends to recognize the state of Palestine at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September 2025. This intention is predicated on the Palestinian Authority's commitment to much-needed reforms, including commitments by the Palestinian Authority's President Abbas to fundamentally reform its governance, to hold general elections in 2026 in which Hamas can play no part, and to demilitarize the Palestinian state. Canada will increase its efforts in supporting strong democratic governance in Palestine and the contributions of its people to a more peaceful and hopeful future. I spoke today with President Abbas at length to reaffirm his commitments. Canada reiterates that Hamas must immediately release all hostages taken in the horrific terrorist attack of October 7th, that Hamas must disarm, and that Hamas must play no role in the future governance of Palestine.
The move from the PM follows similar pledges from the UK and France, as aid organizations warn of looming famine in the Gaza Strip during the ongoing Israel-Hamas war. Israel has argued recognizing a Palestinian state in the wake of Hamas's October 7th attacks would be rewarding the militant group. We turn to new details of a Scarborough man killed while on vacation in Costa Rica.
His family says he was shot in a violent home invasion tonight, speaking out about their loved one and trying to get more information from authorities about how he died. CTV's Allison Hurst joins us live with the story. Allison.
His family says he grew up in Scarborough. They said they're still in shock, and he went to Costa Rica earlier this month and was barely there 24 hours when it happened. Christopher Deere had just arrived in Costa Rica with his girlfriend when his family says he was killed a day later in a violent attempted robbery at their vacation rental.
Just coming out of a room and somebody shoots you because they're trying to rob you, and for what?
His family tells CTV News the 40-year-old was shot on July 11th near the coastal town of Tamarindo. A member of the Costa Rica Organism of Judiciary Investigation says in an email they cannot provide further details because the case is under investigation. Global Affairs says it is aware of the death of a Canadian citizen in Tamarindo, Costa Rica. We express our sincere condolences to the family and friends. Consular officials are in contact with local authorities to gather more information. Deer's brother says in a statement, Chris was a seeker, driven by an insatiable curiosity about the deeper questions of life. He was passionate about philosophy and applied his studies to nurturing his relationships with vast people from all walks of life that he was involved with. And that he was very close to his family and friends. He had a great sense of humor and a smile that would light up a room. We are all in shock that such a loving and generous soul lost his life in such a tragic and senseless way. Deere was a life coach who was able to work remotely and had plans to stay in Costa Rica for up to 6 months. He was also a blue belt in jiu-jitsu with aspirations to earn his black belt.
If he, still was with us, he would for sure get that rank. He had the strength and the determination to go there, and he told me one day I want to become a black belt. So that's why it was important.
Greg King was Deere's coach, and he honored him in a ceremony yesterday, awarding him that black belt posthumously. His family and peers were there, and his medals and green kimono.
The green kimono is very particular. And I was like, it's like the army green. And we're like, why do you wear this? He's like, I don't know. I just like it. I was like, well, okay, if you like it, then good. We like it too. So everybody yesterday was laughing about that because it was like, oh, that's the kimono that everybody knew him to wear.
His family wants answers and justice, saying we are hoping to have closure in this tragedy and waiting to see if the OIJ in Costa Rica is able to protect and bring justice to Canadians visiting Costa Rica. His family says they've spoken to local authorities on just one occasion, and we have reached out for more details and any updates. But in an email today, the OIJ says the case is still under investigation. Reporting live, I'm Allison Hurst. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Allison. Also tonight, a renewed search for answers in a missing persons file that still haunts the city. The $50,000 appeal for information that could crack the case 40 years after an 8-year-old vanished without a trace.
But first, normal operations have now resumed at Pearson tonight. This after a rough landing for a small plane this morning. Peel police say just after 8:30 a.m., a Hawker 850 XP aircraft experienced mechanical issues but landed safely. There was minor damage to the private plane, which had 2 crew members on board, but no injuries were reported. The search for answers around what took place is now underway. That includes investigations by police and the Transportation Safety Board. 2 runways were out of commission for most of the day, but reopened just after 5 o'clock this evening.
After days of oppressive heat, we're finally getting some relief. Here's a live shot of the city as we talk about the forecast. We will notice a difference tomorrow. No heat alerts or warnings. In fact, it'll be slightly below seasonal with a chance of showers. Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at the current conditions. A change is on the way.
A big change, Nathan, and you're right, a fresher feel for everyone, but not exactly fresh air. In fact, our air quality has been deteriorating as the day goes on. We'll talk about that in just a moment. We have just dropped to 28 degrees. It was 30 mere moments ago, but it still feels like 33. This heat warning, yeah, it's going to come to an end this evening. The heat event also coming to an end. Winds are now coming out of the north, and eventually we'll tap into a bit of a northwest wind. The threat of showers through the overnight hours and into tomorrow morning. Forecast low 19 degrees under hazy skies. And yes, we are now sitting at a 6 on the air quality health index. We'll talk about drifting smoke and how it's going to impact your day tomorrow coming up in your forecast. For now, Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Well, take a look at this. Quite the traffic disruption. It's coming up. It's in the Kensington Market area. Now, a tree has come down on Oxford Street and is completely blocking the road. Now, this is between Spadina and Augusta. A hydro pole and some wires have come down with it. Now, this is the view from the CTV News chopper. This was this evening. Now, there are no reports of injuries. Hydro crews have been dispatched to the scene, but the cleanup is going to take a while.
There was a new appeal tonight in the case of a missing 8-year-old girl 40 years after she went missing.
Nicole Moran was last seen leaving her Etobicoke apartment back in 1985. It is a case that has gripped the community for decades, and now police are offering a significant reward as they continue to search for answers. CTV's Janice Golding is live tonight with more details on this. Janice.
Hi, Nathan. Yes, we're live right now outside the apartment building where Nicole Moran once lived, where today, on the 40th anniversary of the little girl's disappearance, Toronto police renewed their appeal to the public for help.
This is the negative of Nicole's photo that was used at the time that she went missing.
The negative Melissa Ellischuk is holding is what police used in 1985 to print missing posters of her best friend, Nicole Moran, just 8 years old when she disappeared from their Etobicoke apartment building.
It's something that I have that I can hold on to and that I can keep, and it just reminds me to have hope.
Today, on the 40th anniversary of her disappearance, police released an age-progressed image of what it's believed Moran would look like now at age 48.
That Nicole was amazing and fun, and we enjoyed so much time together, swimming, playing, laughing, walking to school. Yeah, I miss that Nicole, but I would love to meet this Nicole.
On July 30th, 1985, Nicole Moran left her apartment to go swimming with a friend, but never arrived.
I lived in the building. I still do live in the building, so I remember it like it was yesterday. And it was just so sad and so tragic.
Despite an extensive investigation, the largest that had ever occurred in our city, Moran has never been found.
I remember the police being here and the police coming into every suite, checking cupboards and rooms and whatever.
And while the case may be cold, it is not closed. Police today offering a $50,000 reward for information leading to the whereabouts of the missing woman.
It has never been forgotten, and it only takes one piece of new information to make that difference.
And don't lose hope. Time has passed, yes, but Nicole is counting on us.
Despite all the years that have passed, those who knew Moran say they are still praying she will be found.
In my heart of hearts, I believe she's still alive. And God, I hope that she's found and well.
I know that you probably don't know who you are, but there are people here that care about you, that love you, that miss you. And we're doing everything we can to find you. And if you think that you may be Nicole, if you don't know what your past is, I would encourage you to come forward.
Gone, but not forgotten. Ellischuk adding, there is no doubt in her mind someone knows something that could give those who love Moran some answers and some peace. And police also want to remind the public that there is no waiting period to report someone missing. So if you know a child or a vulnerable person who has gone missing, you should contact 911 immediately. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Natalie.
Thank you, Janice. Meanwhile, the province's Special Investigations Unit says a 40-year-old man is dead after an officer-involved shooting in Niagara Falls. It happened around 11:15 a.m. near a hotel at Stanley Avenue and Pierce Street. The police watchdog says the incident involved a Toronto police officer serving with the Repeat Offender Parole Enforcement Unit. The officer is believed to have opened fire during an attempted arrest that resulted in some kind of interaction. The SIU says the investigation is ongoing.
And police have identified the suspect in a stabbing at Pickering GO Station earlier this week. Just after midnight on Monday, Durham police responded to a call about an armed person at the transit station. They say a person was walking to their car when a man stabbed them. They were injured but will survive. Investigators now say they're looking for 30-year-old Corey Voskamp of no fixed address in connection with the case. They say he's known to ride the GO train between Oshawa and Oakville. They also say to call 911 if you spot him, and he's considered armed and dangerous. There's no rate relief coming for Canadian borrowers just yet.
For the third time in a row, the Bank of Canada held its benchmark interest rate at 2.75%. CTV's Rachel Aiello has the details.
Uncertainty over the future of the Canada-U.S. trade war is clouding the economic outlook in this country, prompting the central bank to again hold its key interest rate at 2.75%.
Growth in spending by Canadian businesses and households is being restrained by uncertainty, and new U.S. tariffs are having profound impacts on directly affected sectors.
Today, this country's top banker said future inflation projections hinge on the outcome of the ongoing cross-border trade talks.
The tariffs have a permanent effect on the economy unless they're removed.
The decision was widely forecasted by the big banks, but came as a shock to Ontario Premier Doug Ford. He said staring down the economic uncertainty, it's never been more important to stimulate growth, and called on the central bank to cut interest rates now.
How would you respond to that?
Look, we take our decisions independently of the political process. We are going to make sure that a tariff problem does not become an inflation problem.
That tariff problem only growing today, with U.S. President Donald Trump announcing 50% tariffs on certain copper imports, citing national security. The sudden announcement adding to the pressure Prime Minister Mark Carney and his cabinet are facing. With the clock ticking and no new trade pact in sight, economists say there's a lot riding on Canada getting a good deal.
That's why I think, you're seeing Canada sort of running the clock.
Though Trump's envoy to Canada still thinks there's a chance of an agreement by Friday.
It's Wednesday today, so you've got at least 48 hours and maybe up to 72 hours, but a lot of things happen at a close of a negotiation.
That time for Canadian companies like Algoma Steel is of the essence. Today, the company suspended its dividend after posting major losses, saying tariffs played a large part. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Ottawa.
Hamilton city officials met today to discuss the ballooning cost of last year's ransomware attack. The cybersecurity incident affected Hamilton's information technology systems for nearly 3 weeks between February and March. A report presented to a committee today shows the city has spent more than $18 million so far to repair the damage. That is almost twice what was reported back in October. Mayor Andrea Horwath says action is being taken to prevent a similar breach in the future.
Timely investments in public infrastructure help prevent far more costly reactive responses down the line. I think this is an example of being down the line, and it's an example that we do not want to have happen again.
Horwath is also defending the city's decision not to pay the ransom demanded by the hackers. The mayor says doing so would only have fueled more cybercrime moving forward.
The province is moving ahead with plans to cancel a contract with Elon Musk's internet satellite service, Starlink. The $100 million contract was originally announced last year with a goal of improving internet access in northern and rural Ontario. But the deal came under fire amid trade tensions with the U.S., especially as owner Elon Musk was serving in the Trump administration. A government source tells CTV News a fee was paid to cancel the deal, but it was significantly less than the full value of the contract. The Ontario Liberals said the province should reveal what it cost to break the agreement. The NDP said it should have been axed long ago. And as Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre looks to secure a new seat in the House of Commons, he took part in a by-election debate last night in the Alberta riding of Battle River Crowfoot.
Look, I'll be honest, having a leader of a political party as your local member of parliament is a trade-off. On the one hand, the leader, in truth, lives in hotel rooms. At the other side, though, is that leader can bring a very powerful megaphone to the local issues of the community.
I firmly believe that Monsieur Poilievre is too busy with his own personal ambitions to give a rat's backside about us.
10 candidates took part in the debate, although more than 200 have registered to run for the seat. Contenders answered a range of questions about immigration, healthcare, agriculture, and the economy. The by-election was triggered when elected MP Damien Carrick resigned so Poilievre could run in his place after he lost his own Ottawa area seat in the spring election. The by-election is set for August 18th.
The Montreal father accused of killing his 9-year-old daughter earlier this month south of the border was back in court today. CTV Geneviève Beauchemin is tracking this story.
Yes, these court documents, as well as the appearance of a father before a New York State court, reveal new details about the case. Fertolin was wearing a gray suit, no tie, as he appeared in Ticonderoga, a small town nearly 2.5 hours drive from Montreal.
He maintains his innocence.
He pleaded not guilty to grand jury indictments of second-degree murder in the drowning death of Melina Fertolin and concealment of a human corpse. On that count, the indictment alleges that he did conceal his daughter's human corpse by placing it in a wooded area in water near a fallen tree with a rock on top of the corpse. Fertolin took Melina from Montreal on a father-daughter trip south of the border in early July. Police say he fabricated a story that she was kidnapped by someone in a white van, and the 9-year-old girl's body was found in shallow water.
He has no ties to the United States.
The court heard today that Fertolin has an Italian and an Ethiopian passport and that he has residences both in Canada and in Ethiopia. If released, his lawyer argued he planned to stay with a friend in New York City and had no reason to run. But the prosecution told the court that he's a flight risk, pointing to his passports and assets. Fertolin was denied bail. He will be back in court on August 19th, and his jury trial is tentatively scheduled for January. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
A sigh of relief for millions of people in coastal areas surrounding the Pacific Ocean, including British Columbia, where a tsunami threat has been declared over. Concern about the massive waves followed a major 8.8 magnitude quake in far eastern Russia overnight. No serious injuries have been reported. Russian scientists say this was the most powerful earthquake to hit the region since 1952. Russia has canceled tsunami alerts for coastal areas in the far eastern parts of the country. Tsunami heights of between 3 and 5 meters have been reported in the Kamchatka Peninsula. That area of Russia is sparsely populated, and there are no reports of any significant damage. As countries around the Pacific Basin implemented their own tsunami protocols, waves of nearly 2 meters were reported in Hawaii, with surges along the U.S. West Coast as well. Officials said the worst of the impact appeared to be over. And there have also been dozens of aftershocks in the hours following that initial earthquake. The largest was magnitude 6.9, and Russian media is also reporting that a volcano in the country's far east, the tallest active volcano in all of Eurasia, has begun erupting.
Back here at home, excitement is building for the CNE, now just a couple of weeks away.
And just take a look at the lineup behind us. But they're not waiting to get on a ride. They're among the thousands wanting a job at the summer fair. CTV's Jessica Smith was there.
The Canadian National Exhibition is a quintessential part of summer and employment in the city.
Really excited, actually. I've been waiting for past months, and finally I'm ready for the opportunity.
According to the CNE, the exhibition is one of the city's largest seasonal employers.
The CNE is such an important tradition, and you know, if you talk to people, you're going to find very quickly somebody who says their first job was at the CNE.
The CNE says a record 54,000 people registered for roughly 5,000 positions available this season.
I hope I get one. I'm nervous. It is my first time, so
I'll see how it goes.
According to Statistics Canada's June 2025 Labour Force Survey, youth unemployment hit 14.2%, up 0.7 percentage points year over year. That rate remaining significantly above the pre-pandemic average of 10.8% recorded between 2017 and 2019.
There's a lot of demand for work right now, for sure, but there's some really exciting opportunities.
Doors opened at 11 a.m. at the Enercare Centre with a line for those pre-registered and another for those unregistered and waiting to also get in, wrapping around the inside of the building.
I am a newcomer to Canada and on a PR also. So I'm looking for some job opportunities, and CNE gives me an opportunity to go ahead with that.
I've been looking for a job the second I turned 16. Nowhere's hiring. And I feel like CNE is just the perfect place to get my first job.
For Andrew Moda, owner of Festival Beast, looking to fill just over 100 positions, he said what made successful candidates stand out was their enthusiasm.
People come to the festival for the excitement, the energy, and if your staff doesn't have that, you just need that to make the whole experience come together. So that's what we know. We can teach the rest.
For some, it was a time to celebrate getting a job.
The worker said she liked the personality, she liked my energy, so I got hired.
It feels good, especially as a young person, to see older people recognize that in you. It feels good.
And for others, it's still a waiting game.
Applied to 2 places so far, and neither of them have responded to me, but to be fair, one of them was only hiring 1 person.
The Canadian National Exhibition begins on August 15th and runs all the way through to Labor Day on September 1st. Jessica Smith, CTV News.
Still to come tonight, from shutdowns to shuttle buses, taking the TTC doesn't always feel like the better way. Just ahead, the story of a Torontonian who took transit troubles into his own hands to help inform his fellow riders.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, Canada Post continues to negotiate with employees to reach a deal. It comes at a time when some Canadians say their mail has been lost in the system. 2 viewers paid extra for registered mail to send important documents that never showed up. I'll have that story. That's just ahead.
This afternoon, Environment Canada expanded special air quality statements to include areas like Muskoka, the Kawarthas, Barrie, and the Bruce Peninsula. There are air quality warnings out west. A change in wind direction means drifting smoke is part of our story once again. We're expected to be at about a 4 on the Air Quality Health Index for tomorrow, but you know what would help? Some rain. We might get some overnight tonight. Your forecast is coming up, and stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
55,000 Canada Post workers have until this Friday to vote on the Crown Corporation's most recent and so-called final offer.
The negotiations come at a time when some Canadians and businesses have expressed frustration with some of Canada Post's services. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Nathan and Natalie. Postal employees went on strike last November until they were ordered back to work a month later. It took a while to clear a huge backlog, but now some viewers say even though they paid extra for registered services, their mail has still gone missing. Ethan Thorogood of Toronto has volunteered to help children's causes in Africa. He decided to go to Kenya and Ghana for 3 months this summer to continue his humanitarian work. In the spring, he used Express Post to mail his passport, proof of vaccines, and other documents to the Ghana consulate in the GTA.
I checked back a few days later to see where it was at, being delivered to the consulate, and it was lost and nowhere to be found.
Once the documents were officially declared lost, Thorogood had to scramble to replace all the missing paperwork at an additional cost to him of $750.
Cost a lot financially and certainly emotionally as well.
He was able to get new paperwork in time to make the trip. Canada Post gave him $100, the maximum insurance for Express Post. His mother, Lara, felt he deserved much more.
He's going to volunteer, and that $750 would come in very, very handy, either towards his flight or helping the kids while he's there.
A Canada Post spokesperson told CTV News, "We apologize to the customer and recognize the importance of meeting the expectations of Canadians across the country."
This is actually the registered mail tag.
Sarah Isaacs of Mississauga had to mail confidential documents in February for a family member. They were medical records for her insurance company.
Because it's confidential medical information, I said I'm going to send it through Canada Post as a registered letter.
Isaacs kept checking to see when her registered letter would arrive. More than 5 months later, Canada Post still has no idea where it went.
They lost my letter And now they're basically saying they refuse to do anything about it.
Canada Post told CTV News, "This is an unfortunate situation, and we apologize to the customer that their registered letter still has not been delivered." Canada Post says it takes it very seriously whenever a letter, package, or parcel goes missing. Isaacs is frustrated her family's private documents have disappeared.
You can't lose registered mail. That's absolutely insane.
And earlier this year, CTV News mailed letters across the country to see how long it would take for them to arrive. The first one took a week, while the longest took 3 weeks. Some analysts say Canada Post needs to do more to improve its service and become more competitive. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
All right, a bit of relief is on the way, but not quite yet.
That's right. That heat warning is still technically in effect, right, Linz? But the end is in sight.
It is. It's been a pretty humid day again today. Maybe not quite as oppressive as earlier this week and, well, most weeks this July. But it is still a little muggy out there. Conditions are going to improve overnight tonight, but you will really notice a difference into tomorrow. I want to show you some video here. This is from Springwater, Ontario. Yeah, it's that time of year, corn season. But of course, it's worth mentioning that the weather this summer hasn't exactly been easy on this crop. There's been some heat stress. There's been a real lack of rain. Fortunately, it looks like there's lots of corn to go around, and it's looking good, the crop overall. So that's great news. Let's talk about temperatures and what it feels like right now. 28 degrees feels more like 33 this hour in Toronto. There's the heat warning. I'm anticipating that this is going to come to an end sometime this evening. Your evening forecast looks like this. Around 8 p.m. we can expect the temperature to be at about 26 degrees. A little more cloud out there, a little bit of haze as well. And a reminder that we could be dealing with some of that haze through the night tonight, through the day tomorrow, but we've also got the chance of showers overnight and before morning, so that could help improve some of the air quality. Speaking of, here's tomorrow at a glance. Look at that temperature, 23 degrees for the high. It's going to feel like 25. Essentially, what you see is what you get. A much fresher feel, a big difference compared to recently. And condition-wise, yes, a little bit of haze, a little more cloud. Our better chance of experiencing wet weather is going to come early in the morning for us here in Toronto and around the GTA. It's not looking like a soaking rain, and in fact, it's going to move out quite quickly. But here's what it looks like right now on the satellite and radar. We did have a couple of quick passing showers this afternoon in the GTA. Not everyone impacted. They were very isolated. There's that disturbance. So this is how it looks to play out from a timing standpoint. I'm just going to pause that around midnight there to show you a chance of wet weather beginning into tomorrow morning. Notice how it's mainly Windsor, London, Hamilton, and Niagara dealing with the wet weather as a result of this one. Might just skim us here in the city of Toronto. Maybe just enough to give your lawn a little bit of a soaking, but not a decent one. And then tomorrow, conditions are going to clear. By Friday, it is wall-to-wall sunshine, and we are in for quite a spell of sunshine as we head into the long weekend. It's looking really pleasant. I know it's quite dry, but other than that, this is great for your outdoor weekend plans. Comfortable temperatures, 25 degrees on Friday, 27 degrees on Saturday. We're going to start to see a little bit of heat build back in for Sunday and Monday, but it's warm temperatures, less in the way of humidity. So still very comfortable. Civic holiday Monday is looking good overall. Again, just dry, wall-to-wall sunshine expected most days. Chance of maybe some showers or thunderstorms through the middle part of next week. That's the weather for now. Nathan, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Delays and disruptions are an unfortunate reality of relying on the TTC.
It is why one man took it upon himself to develop a website to keep riders updated. And it turns out the TTC is taking notice. TTCmap.ca is a one-stop shop for service changes and delays on the TTC subway system. Its creator, who happens to be a PhD student in aerospace engineering, says he created the site because this kind of information can be hard to find on the TTC's official website.
In a way, the TTC has made this information available. It's just you really have to dig to find it. There are at least 6 different websites, web pages within the TTC site that have this kind of scattered around, which elevators are broken, which segments have delays. And you would have to spend, I don't know, 10, 20 minutes as a rider to go through it all and find it yourself. The goal here was just really make it easier for the average rider in the morning, put it all in one place.
When we asked the TTC about the website, here's what they said, quote, "We are always looking for ways to improve the customer experience." As you heard at the board meeting, commissioners were impressed with what was presented, and we've already reached out to the creator about a possible collaboration.
After the break, a new cancer-killing drug offers promise for patients suffering from plasma problems. We have more on the treatment just approved in Canada coming up.
Health Canada has approved a new drug to treat multiple myeloma.
It takes a novel approach in attacking the cancer and offers more options for patients. We get the details from CTV's health reporter, Pauline Chan.
When Mary Ann Tuomi was admitted to hospital during the pandemic with severe back pain, she was quickly tested for multiple myeloma. But she says some patients can go years without a correct diagnosis, so she credits Myeloma Canada with increasing awareness.
Information for doctors that when patients present themselves with back pain, long-term back pain, that to check this for a protein in the blood. That could be an indicator.
It's solely adults that are affected by myeloma, not children. And it does tend to be older adults.
Multiple myeloma is a cancer of the plasma cells. Mary Ann underwent an autologous stem cell transplant in 2021, but that doesn't get rid of 100% of the cancer.
It's like you have a big field of dandelions. And what the treatment does, it takes the field and it gives a weeding of all the dandelions, but there's still a few.
That's why new medications like Blenrep are so important.
So the drug both activates the patient's immune system against the cancer cell, also delivers the drug that helps kill this particular malignant cell. So it's a relatively novel mechanism in multiple myeloma.
Health Canada has just approved its use in combination with one of two other drugs. There are currently several thousand patients living with multiple myeloma in Canada, but with new drugs to improve survival, the hope is that number will grow. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
The province has revealed plans to significantly ramp up the production of life-saving medical isotopes. The Ford government says it intends to double the amount of medical isotopes Ontario makes by 2030. The isotopes are used to treat various forms of cancer, sterilize medical equipment, and assist imaging technology. The province announced the formation of the Nuclear Isotope Innovation Council of Ontario today. The expert panel will provide recommendations and identify new opportunities to expand production.
Leadership of this council, we're going to make sure that across the globe that they know Ontario's potential when it comes to cancer-fighting isotopes. And we're going to keep looking for ways to collaborate with the federal government to grow export opportunities for these made-in-Ontario medical isotopes and to help attract further investment and jobs to our province.
Ontario currently produces medical isotopes at the Bruce, Pickering, and Darlington nuclear plants, as well as in McMaster University's nuclear research reactor.
The Home of Metal gathered to honor the life of Ozzy Osbourne today. Thousands of fans lined the funeral procession route in Birmingham, England, to pay their respects to the Black Sabbath frontman. Fans have made pilgrimages to sites around Birmingham since Osbourne's death was announced. Family members stopped by to see some of the many memorials and tributes laid out to mourn the music legend.
Emotional. Obviously, been a Black Sabbath fan for a long time, watched the Osbournes on the TV. So we've grown up with these being in our homes, so they're like our family, you know? Yeah. So basically it's like a big loss, especially after a few weeks ago he's done the Back to the Beginning tour, which unfortunately I couldn't make. But I'm glad to be here today with people who are like-minded, who adored him and adore the family, and we want to show our support today for him and his family.
Because Ozzy was an absolute legend. He's a soundtrack, particularly my life growing up. If you're a metalhead, he is and Black Sabbath are the originators of heavy metal and such great music. And he dared to be different because he was different.
The Crazy Train singer died last week at age 76 following years of health struggles. His death came just weeks after he reunited with his Black Sabbath bandmates in Birmingham for a concert.
Just ahead, growing garden suites in Mississauga. The city's working to expand housing options, and the solution could be right in your own backyard. That's coming up.
removing it from the busiest street in Toronto is just like, come on, let's talk honestly. It's not practical.
Updating our top stories, there's a new bump in the road for the Ford government's plan to remove bike lanes from 3 major Toronto streets. The Superior Court judge ruled in favor of a challenge that argued the plan is unconstitutional. A spokesperson for the Transportation Ministry says the province plans to appeal.
To try to reverse with partners, we're not under illusions about the strength of Canada, but to reverse with partners this cycle so that a two-state solution becomes viable.
Prime Minister Mark Carney says Canada will recognize a Palestinian state come September, but only if certain conditions are met. Carney says the decision is predicated on the Palestinian Authority carrying out reforms and holding an election next year in which Hamas can play no part. This comes as Israel's war with the militant group continues in the wake of its October 7th attacks and as international aid organizations warn of a looming famine in Gaza.
It has never been forgotten, and it only takes one piece of new information to make that difference.
And Toronto police have launched a new appeal in the case of a missing 8-year-old girl 40 years after her disappearance. Nicole Moran was last seen leaving her Etobicoke apartment building in 1985. Investigators are now offering a $50,000 reward for any information on her whereabouts. They're also asking those who may remember any details to contact them or Crime Stoppers.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app.
On the markets, the Canadian dollar is down to 72.27. Our fix on Western Canadian Select has it up over $2 to 56.42. And the TSX dropped 169 points today.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
In a bid to expand housing supply in Mississauga, the city is working to make it easier for homeowners to build garden suites. Officials today revealed the first garden suite built from plans pre-approved by the city. This one-bedroom unit in a residential backyard has its own address and was constructed according to a pre-configured design that allowed the city to fast-track the permit process. The goal is to make the process as quick and cost-efficient as possible to spur the construction of more rental units.
Tried to do really is just eliminate as many of the barriers as possible and reduce the fees to make it as accessible as we can for homeowners. The idea being that homeowners will take this innovative design and start providing a new product to the city of Mississauga for affordable home ownership.
Residential properties need to meet certain size and setback criteria to qualify for a pre-approved garden suite. But officials say as many as 133,000 Mississauga properties would be good candidates for the builds.
The Blue Jays were looking to snap a 4-game losing skid as they wrapped up a series with the Baltimore Orioles this afternoon.
Especially up and close to him. Lucas hits one to deep right field. A 3-run homer.
The Jays took a 9-5 lead with a homer in the 7th inning, and they were able to hold off a late rally by the Orioles to secure a 9-8 win. The team will be off tomorrow, which is the MLB trade deadline, before welcoming the Kansas City Royals to town on Friday.
Canada's Gabriel Diallo has secured his spot in the 3rd round of the Men's National Bank Open at Sobeys Stadium.
It's a rather ignominious way for a match to come to a conclusion.
Italy's Matteo Gigante double faulted on match point with Diallo winning 6-3, 7-6. Laval's Alexis Galarneau fell in 3 sets to Italy's Flavio Caboli, while Felix Auger-Aliassime is set to face Hungary's Fabian Morozin tonight. On the women's side in Montreal, Jeannie Bouchard is set to play in front of a hometown crowd at least one more time tonight as she plans to retire after the tournament.
Just ahead, a monumental mural for a former Premier of Ontario. The life and legacy of Bill Davis is honored in a work of political art. The unveiling coming up.
Tonight, the impact from a monster earthquake.
It's almost impossible to describe just how large an earthquake of this magnitude is.
How BC's warning system responded to the stern test of a tsunami threat. Later on CTV National News.
A special ceremony was held in Brampton today to honor a former premier.
Politicians and community leaders gathered to mark Bill Davis Day.
It speaks to the affection that so many people have in this province for the late premier, that we have
the existing Premier of Ontario making time in his busy schedule to be here to pay tribute to Bill Davis. Thank you, Premier Ford, for taking the time.
Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown and Premier Doug Ford were among the officials who paid tribute to the late former Premier. In honor of Davis, an art installation was unveiled outside the Peel Art Gallery Museum.
He was and always will be the greatest Premier this province has ever seen, bar none. He was you know, he did similar to myself. Yes, we were both proud to be part of the PC party. And I always say, I don't care about political stripes. I never have, and just working collaboratively as Premier Davis did, working across all aisles, no matter what political stripe it was.
Davis became Ontario's 18th Premier in 1971 and held the position until 1985. He died at the age of 92 in 2021.
We've been talking all week about the heat wave, but now we finally have a cool down in sight.
Yeah, it's kind of something to look forward to.
Yeah, so tomorrow morning it might not feel that different yet, but as the afternoon progresses, we're going to struggle to make it to a seasonal high. Also worth mentioning, overnight we could get a few showers, so this is what you're waking up to. By the time most are heading out the door, that wet weather will have departed the GTA. Hopefully you bring your patio cushions in tonight. Tomorrow's high, 23 degrees. What a difference. And overall, this is a pattern change that's going to follow us into the long weekend. If you're already missing the heat, well, don't worry. Temperatures will be back up close to 30 by Sunday and Monday, just less humid. Nathan and Natalie.
Thank you, Lindsay. Be sure to join Marcia McMillan tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Andrea Case with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a good night.